Hello fellow mutants, welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to talk about Star Wars. Shocker, because like at least a third of what I talk about in these videos is Star Wars, at least. But in this video we're going to actually talk about why Lucasfilm had decided to reunite Grogu and Din Djarin together. Now, I'm in that camp where I feel like it would have been better to reunite Grogu and Din Djarin together in Book of Boba. I mean, not Book of Boba. In Mandalorian, that Grogu and Din Djarin should have been reunited. Should be so it took place in Mandalorian, not Book of Boba, because I do get that in the Book of Boba there has been some time that has passed since Mando season 2, right? And I get that, but how much more powerful would it have been to have given, like, events play out similarly, but we don't see what Grogu's choice is, right? We don't see that reunion in Book of Boba. Instead, Mando season 3. Maybe Luke senses that Din Djarin is in danger, so like Luke teaches Grogu some techniques that are advanced for Grogu, but that Luke feels like it's needed for Grogu to learn, and that's when he passes him off to Mando, and maybe Luke will help in Mando season 3. That us getting a reunion in Mando season 3 besides in Book of Boba, I feel like that could have worked a bit better than how they did things. And it still couldn't work, just I feel like we were robbed at least part of season 3 of not having having Din Djarin play the solo act, going things solo, and same with Grogu. That's just my opinion. But let's read what this says. Today's Empire magazine revealed more than their Mandalorian season 3 coverage. And when they mean today, they mean Valentine's Day. Specifically, showrunner and director Jon Favreau sat down with the outlet to discuss the decision to reunite Grogu and Din Djarin in the Book of Boba. Check out this excerpt. There you go. We couldn't just hit a hard reset. And nobody wanted to hit a hard reset. Just wanted to see Grogu and Din Djarin apart a bit more. Anyways. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds for people who may not have seen the Book of Boba, but I think the Book of Boba offered time to pass. You saw what Mando was like without Baby Yoda, and we saw what Grogu was like without the Mandalorian. And neither of them was doing so good. So them coming back together was a really good plot point that allows us to jump back into season 3 while maintaining the central relationship. Of course my camera goes off, so I'll repeat the last bit just in case if the audio crashed on me. So them coming back together was a really good plot point that allows us to jump back into season 3 while maintaining the central relationship. Just because the kid was the potential and had training, does he belong away from the Mandalorian? I saw it like Paper Moon, where the whole thing is about delivering the kid to the blood relative, only to release that, whether genetically through her father or just through the bond. Tatum O'Neil has to end up with Ryan O'Neal. The ending feels really good to me, and this little kid, being Grogu, is given a decision to choose, and the kid chooses the emotional relationship and wants to be with a Mandalorian, and passes up Yoda's lightsaber. Part of you wants to see him develop in that way. The other. And I get that, which is why I'm saying, like, we could have, like, still had, like, the Mando, like, the Grogu Yoda centric episode, but, like, where, like, we saw, like, Luke training Grogu, and we could have, like, we could have had that decision kept until, like, Mando season 3. Like, I don't know how many episodes, Mandalorian's gonna be, but, like, maybe there's a right that, Mando's in, like, the half episode point, right? And then Luke and Grogu comes in. Luke, Grogu, and R2 comes in, and essentially saves Mando. But Luke going back because he needs to, he's trying to, like, resurrect the Jedi Order. Boom. We would have had, like, what, half this season 3 without seeing Mando with Grogu. We could have had, like, a little bit more time of Grogu trying to figure himself out, trying to do the best thing for himself, not having, and being Grogu free, so he can focus on trying to quote unquote redeem himself. Because that's part of what season 3 is going to be. Din Djarin trying to redeem himself because he had the audacity, y'all. He had the audacity to show his face. Gasp! Like, no men are learning showed his face before. Oh my god. So, that's just me. I would have enjoyed a tad bit more time with Grogu, Din Djarin apart. I would have loved that. Plus, it gives us fans more time to really see how Mando is doing without Grogu. You know? See how much it's affecting him mentally while him trying to focus. And maybe he like, we could have seen, like, him making some mistakes that he probably wouldn't have made otherwise, but him trying to focus. And which is why, like, the halfway point in the season 3 could have been, like, the reunion. So then the other half of the season could have been Mando on his A game. Still making some mistakes, but not as many. I just feel like that would have been a better route to go as, in my humble opinion. Anyways, there's still a little bit left of this article, so let's read. I'm going to have to disagree about the passage of time. Boba Fett's 2 Mando episodes didn't adequately give the impression that it had been a while. And that's also partially where I'm coming from too. Because I get that it's supposed to be like a passage of time type deal, that in Star Wars it could have been like, what, a year? Or a tad bit less than a year since Grogu and Mando has been apart. But I agree with this sentence alone, that the Boba Fett's 2 Mando episodes didn't adequately give the impression that it had been a while. It didn't. I feel like if they adequately gave us that feeling, then people like me would have been, like, more on board in that reunion. And maybe it's that feeling of Grogu and Mando reuniting in Book of Boba, kind of giving the middle finger to how season 2 ended a bit less. Like, not that feeling wouldn't be as strong as it is for people like me. But yeah, I have to agree with that statement. Anyways, They were probably the best episodes of that show, and that presents its own issues, with the titular character was excluded almost entirely. I think most people would have agreed that reuniting Grogu and Din was the right decision overall, but more time should have elapsed. Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. On. Amen to that, sister. It's a girl who wrote this. So amen to that, sister. Let us really spend time with Din. Show more of Grogu's training. Of course, he would choose Mando over Luke. They didn't exactly bond much on screen. Thank you. Thank you. This last bit honestly wraps up what was like pretty much my whole message of Zoe in season 3. Better than I explained it. And like I said, have it like within like 6 episodes. Like the first half of the season where like Luke Skywalker's teaching, saying, I know you chose to be with Mando, but I want you to learn something about the Force. And maybe through teaching Grogu how to like in the ways of the Force a bit, agrees, okay, maybe I should let you have Yoda's lightsaber. I'll show you how to like use it a little, the lightsaber a bit, and that could like we could see that episode like taking place like for like months, making Book of Mando season 3 spanning on over months. So I don't think many fans would have minded. Just to see and feel that there's like this huge passage of time between the two characters. Cause yeah, I did not get that impression that it's been a while when they reunited in Book of Boba. Even though I understand that that's what they were trying to go for, it's just it didn't feel like that. And there's a strong difference about knowing and feeling. I've recently watched Spider-Man 2. Right? And after rewatching like Spider-Man 1, and I could feel between Spider-Man 1 and 2 that there has been a passage of time. Partially because Aunt May did say that it's been 2 years since Uncle Ben died in that universe. But also, I can feel that there has been some sort of passage of time between the first Spider-Man movie and the second Spider-Man movie. The original trilogy of Star Wars. You can feel there's a passage of time. I think the original trilogy spans over the course of like 5 years. And from New Hope to Empire Strikes Back, Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi, I can feel that there's a passage of time taking place. And the same with the prequels. It's been 10 years between Phantom Menace and Attack of Clones, and about like 5-ish years between Attack of Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Right? I can feel a passage of time between those 3 films and the prequels as well. If we want to keep things in Star Wars like, right? So I feel like there should have been more time. And that's like now like one thing that I feel like the sequels had issues. I had issues with Rey in the sequels. There wasn't enough time that I feel like Rey spent with Luke or with Leia to really harness her Force abilities. Sure, in between, like, what? Last Jedi, Rise of Palpatine, as I like to call episode 9. It was a year. And she was able to, like, grasp more, pick up on things more in that year that Grogu is at this stage of his life. Because she's mentally older, even though technically she's younger than Grogu. But she's mentally older. So, like, she's able to harness it, sure. But to really be like a badass Jedi, kind of like how Luke was in the original trilogy, and essentially the Book of Boba, the Mando episode that he was in, and how Anakin Skywalker was in the Clone Wars, and how Ahsoka has been. There should have been more time with Rey. And I feel like, yeah, even though the Grogu is technically an infant for his species, there should have been a tad bit more time with him and Luke. That's just me, and hopefully, maybe, like, Grogu will say, okay, I will pop up Mando. I love you, but I need some time to harness my abilities as a Jedi because I want to learn this. But I'll be back for you soon. I promise. And granted that, like, Ahsoka said to Mando, a short time for, or what Luke said to Grogu. I think it was Luke said to Grogu. A short time for him is a lifetime for Mando. And, essentially him, Luke. Because us humans and Tortugas, I think that's Ahsoka's species, right? Doesn't age as low as the Yoda species. And so, I don't know, like, well, how slow is, like, do they go? Like, once they reach, like, 75, they would be, like, little kids. Age 100, they would be, like, a preteen. And they, 150, is that when they become adults? How does the aging thing work for Yoda species at this point? Because, I don't know. My point is, Grogu, Din Djarin. I agree with this article about how they should have had more time away from each other. And the Book of Boba, the episode where they reunited, and the whole time passes thing could have been more felt, more out there, and a bit more obvious. Because, like I said, I do understand that Book of Boba is supposed to be like a time passes type deal. But I also agree with this article where it says that it doesn't feel like a time passes type deal. And I'm not saying that to be a dick. I'm not saying that to really just drag on Book of Boba. Because I watched it because I met Daniel Logan, who played Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones. I'm saying that as a Star Wars fan, critiquing The Mandalorian. Before anyone says, "Oh, you're just bashing it. If you don't like it, don't watch it." Bullshit. Because I had someone actually say that when I was critiquing Rise of the Ninja Turtles. Oh my god, if you don't like the Rise of the Ninja Turtles, then you don't have to watch it. Oh my god. How are you? But, that's just me. What do you guys think? I am really interested in hearing what you guys have to say. Let me know in the comment section down below. Love you all. Have a wonderful day. Be kind to one another. And may the force be with us all.